Today's presenter is Lucidworks Technical Enablement Manager and Lucene Committer, Andy Oliver. Thank you for joining us today, Andy.
Thanks, Leah. So thanks for joining us, everyone. We're going to basically run through Fusion 3 and how you use Fusion 3 along with Lucidworks View. And so using these two technologies together, I'm going to do almost all of this live. We'll have a short presentation, and then we're going to show you how you could actually deploy a full site search UI and site search backend in under an hour using our stuff. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, Lucidworks is a San Francisco company with offices in a number of places around the world. We have many Fortune 500 companies. Fusion, our primary product, is based on Apache Solr, which is a very powerful search engine that many companies around the world have used to deploy very high-end search applications. We support Solr and Fusion and help organizations do this with consulting and training and general support. We're the primary sponsor of Apache Solr and employ many of the active committers and have contributed much of the code base. We also have a conference dedicated to Lucene and the under part of Solr and Solr called Revolution, which is a large user conference dedicated to these technologies. So our just released product, Lucidworks Fusion 3.0, is a big step forward. Many folks who have used it in the past found that it helped them make their search application development more productive, and they also found that it really helps the operational teams be able to maintain their search infrastructure. But this product has evolved and gone even further to that, to where the productivity gains in 3 greatly even exceed what you would have seen in 2.4. Lots of people are using this and connecting to a lot of different types of data sources, from your RDBMS to stuff you've got up on Amazon, Salesforce, Google Drive, so on and so forth. There's over 50 different sorts of connectors that you can use, and data has a lot of different forms. Even if you're using a database or you're using XML or whatever, data has a lot of different forms, and since data has a lot of different forms, you need to be able to parse that and transform that data. So out of any search project or out of any site search development, there's going to be some sort of ETL that you have to perform. And one of the things, I'm a recent person joining Lucidworks. One of the things that surprised me, having worked in big data sort of projects and large database kind of projects, was it's actually one of the best ETL tools I'd ever seen. And it, unlike many ETL tools that I'd worked with, it actually works. So that's one of the more impressive parts of the product, are your ability to connect to different data sources, transform the data in the way that you need for a decent search application, and then even be able to secure that all the way down to supporting security trimming by connecting ACL lists that you're getting off of your Windows file system or Google Drive or SharePoint or what have you. The great thing about Fusion is it has a graphical user interface that lets you change your query process, and it also lets you change your indexing process and lets you visualize what those changes mean. So as you you go and deploy different stages into your query input point, if you would, you're able to see what that's going to mean to the results the user is going to see in the search application, all from the Fusion GUI. And you can do this side by side. So you can take a pipeline, see what's going to change, and then say, oh, do this, do that, and not affect the production or development pipeline that people are using. And then later, easily with the one point and click, swap out what sets of parameters or how your queries are processed or how your index process works. And I'm going to show you that. And again, this is something where operations people, system administrators get a convenient point and click interface. Fusion pulls together a lot of different services, and this architecture diagram shows you, a lot of different things that we do. A lot of this, though, is simplified away from you. We use key technologies from the open source community, including Apache Spark, which many of you have heard of in a big data context, Apache Solr, which is the search engine I mentioned, and Apache Zookeeper, which helps with our shared configuration. On top of that, we build a lot of different services for doing your ETL, helping process and transform user queries and make them simpler for the user, as well as providing recommendations, doing complex natural language processing. All of those sorts of services get drawn on top of these key technologies, but you don't have to worry about the operational complexity. We've taken care of that stuff for you. Everything in Fusion and Solr are exposed via REST API. So you can use the sort of UI technologies that I'm going to show you, or you can build your complete UI from scratch. Additionally, there's security policies and security connectors for SAML, Active Directory, LDAP, and different combinations of those technologies, so that you can do single sign-on. You can specify what parts of data that you don't want people to see, or that you want people to be able to see based on a certain role, all of that good stuff. This is an HA and DR sort of compliant technology, so you can have the full sort of distributed infrastructure to where if a server goes down, you've still got, users don't have to know about it. And even if a whole data center goes down, we have technology on the back end to allow you to do disaster recovery, basically WAN replication, and go over to the other data center. And so you can set it up even to where disaster recovery can happen seamlessly without the user being affected. Who's using it? Well, there's a lot of different people using this technology, from very big companies to relatively mid-size, from billions of documents even per day to just a few hundred. So there's a lot of different folks using this for a lot of different search applications in a lot of different verticals, from insurance to manufacturing, financial, and a lot of online retailers. One of the technologies I'm going to show you is Lucidworks View, which is a customizable interface. You can make it as pretty, or in this case, as ugly as you want it to be, that nice orange and yellow. I'm going to show you not orange and yellow. So that's in addition to Fusion 3. I'm going to also go over Lucidworks View. And what Lucidworks View is basically a search application template. We basically did most of the work for you in advance. It has integrated type ahead, so you're going to see where when you start typing, it goes ahead and starts finishing your sentence for you. Facets, so basically if we want to set what category, say you want to limit search to, I don't know, if I type in blue suede and you want to limit search to shoes, or if you want to limit it to jackets or what have you based on the types of categories you have in your index, you can do that right out of the box. We're not going to write any code to make that happen. And I'm going to go over signals. So as I use the application that we're going to develop live, because I'm just that crazy, that we're going to develop live, you're going to actually be able to see how my use of the application affects the search results that are returned in the application. And I'll show you how that works too. So without further ado, we're just going to do this. So nothing in my hands, nothing behind my back. I'm going to go ahead and untar. I didn't think it'd be entertaining to watch me type the command. And then okay, there we go. Let's say, and then my machine is going to lock up. So I move into the Fusion directory. I'm going to say bin Fusion start. And so Fusion's starting up a whole lot of different stuff. I'm starting this all on my laptop, so it's not going to be the fastest thing you've ever seen. It'll be pretty snappy. The startup's going to be the slowest part of the entire demo. It's going to be the fastest thing you ever saw, but it's not going to be bad. If you were to deploy this when you deploy this in production, you're going to deploy it obviously on multiple servers so that you have capacity. And the clustering technology and whatever allows you to add more servers as you need more capacity. While that's going, I'm going to show you I was like, okay, how can I do something that everyone will be able to replicate on their own and realize that there's nothing magical that I've done to make this work. So I was like, okay, I want a public data source. I want something novel. I want something everyone can access without any problems. And so there was an old saying that social media and what have you was basically so people could post cat pictures on the internet all day long. So I decided I would use Wikipedia cat breeds as sort of my initial thing. Plus, it was an excuse to get paid to sit around and look at cat pictures at work all day. And so from this initial sort of page, we're going to basically build a search interface that lets us look at different cat breeds. We'll see the pictures, and we're going to limit it mostly to cat breed, the cat breed information on Wikipedia. And we're going to even filter out some bad data that we don't want and promote some data that we like better. And my thinking of this is, if your boss is like, hey, let's get this thing out and I need it out now, what can you do on day one? So I've gone ahead and gone to the initial Fusion startup page. You can see that Fusion started up. I've gone to the initial Fusion startup page, and I'm going to set an incredibly secure password that it asked for when I first start up of Lucidworks 1. Agree to the license terms, register my information. And I'm taken to a quick start. This quick start will actually let you experiment with the product even if you don't have your own data set. I didn't want to do this for showing you guys how this works, because if I did this, then one, we would suck down too much of Wikipedia, because it sort of assumes that this is your data source, and then secondly, you wouldn't really get the full taste of the product. So I'm going to go ahead and just go straight into to the product itself, exit out of the quick start, go to collections, which is basically our name for you can think of it as a combination of you can think of it as a table almost, if you're familiar with relational databases. And I'm going to call it cats. Save that collection. I'm going to go ahead and go into that collection. You'll see a menu of different things that I can create or do for the cats collection. I don't have any data yet, so I'll go to data sources. I'll specify that I want a web-based data source. I'll call that the unique and creative name of cats. I want to select a parser, and make sure you don't skip this part. what this does, and I'll show you the parser configuration, but what this does is it helps it figure out, okay, here's how to parse an HTML page and what have you. Start links is basically that. What link is it going to start from, since I'm going to crawl some links? And as I mentioned, we're going to crawl the Wikipedia cat page, cat breeds, which I'm having a little cut and paste challenge there. It's the simple things that are hard. So I'm going to go ahead and crawl cat breeds, and I'm going to want to limit the number of documents. I don't want to crawl all of Wikipedia. So I'm going to specify a max crawl depth of 2, so only 2 links from the main page. So it would go to here, and it'll go to here, but it won't go any further. And then I'm going to just say I don't want any more than 1,000 documents. That should be enough, right? If we wanted to pull down more, we'd pull down more, but in the interest of time, let's pull down that many. And it won't take that long anyhow. Okay, so given that, I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to tell it to go ahead and start crawling. You'll be able to see in the job history, it shows up, oh, nice. Because this is a demo, I, of course, immediately, after testing this like 50 times, I have a bug here. Let's see. Oh, because I screwed up the link. All right, no big deal. No one panic. We'll hit start crawl again. And so we can go look at the job. And remember, I said I was limiting it to 1,000 documents, so you can see how many documents there are that it's processed. So you can get a rough idea of how far I've gone. Believe it or not, I don't even have to wait on this before I start looking at my data. I can just go to the query workbench, and it'll show me what it's already started to pull in. So I can see my cat breeds category. I can see some initial cat breed stuff, but I'm also getting some junk. Like I don't really care what people on Wikipedia think about the cat breeds category, and so on and so forth. So we're going to have to do some things to sort of clean that up a little bit. When we look at this, we'll be able to identify aspects of the data that help me figure out how do I get rid of this thing. For instance. Okay, so let's just go back over and just look at our data, look at our job history, and we can see that it's finished because there's a nice green there. There's probably going to be, either it didn't find more than that, or there's going to be some pages that are 404 or broken links or whatever. But that's okay. We got 998 pages. That should be enough to do our basic sorts of querying. So I'm also getting things like human interaction with cats, and this isn't something I really wanted. I want lists of cat breeds and things like that. So when I look at this, I start trying to figure out, oh wait, this is kind of getting off of the cat breeds category. So maybe what I want to do is, I've got this field parents, parent underscore s. So maybe what I want to do is limit it to where I don't pull back data that isn't directly related to the cat breeds page, or isn't directly a cat breed. So I can start looking at things like that, and start limiting the data that I pull back. So for instance, this neutering again, not off of that. So maybe what we want to do is fix our index process a little bit. We'll do that through the index workbench. I'll load some data. I'll load the cat's pipeline. In this, you'll see what's called the index pipeline. And the index pipeline lets me add different ways that I transform or limit the data that I pull back. So initially what I'm going to do is there's include documents, and I'm going to specify that the parent S page is going to be the parent of this. I don't want to pull back things that don't have that. So I specify that. This is a regex pattern that says escape that whole string and pull me back things where the value of parent S is that Wikipedia page. I'll hit apply. I'll go back to, I'll save. I'll go back to my data sources. I'll go back to cats. I can go ahead and clear the data source and crawl again. Oh, I hit the wrong button and aborted it. No big deal. I'll clear it again. I'll hit start. Go to the job history. And I see how many things have been pulled back so far. When I go back to my query workbench, I'm getting better here. I'm starting to filter out some of the things I didn't want. It's not perfect yet, but we'll look at that later. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and start setting up our search UI so that we can start looking at the data as the users are going to see it. So I'm going to untar Lucidworks View, the other product I mentioned, and go into the Lucidworks View directory. In this is a sample that I'm going to be able to configure, a configuration that I'm going to be able to configure. So initially I'm going to just say view start. And it brings up an immediate UI that I can look at. All right, well, that's fun. Let's go ahead and edit that configuration. So now I see when I've started, it creates a Fusion config.js. So I'll look at Fusion config.js. And what I want to do first and foremost is set my collection. So the name of my collection, if you'll recall, was cats. Let's go look at what our pipeline was. Our pipeline is called cats default. And there's this thing in Fusion called a query profile. What a query profile does for us is it lets us create an abstraction so that when you have a search application and it's linked to a specific pipeline, so you're basically hitting a REST endpoint, the last thing you want is when you're changing a query pipeline to have it break the application. You don't want to have to go edit the search application just because you change the pipeline. So this lets you create a whole new query pipeline and then just change this, select it here and select a different query pipeline, but the search application still connects to our existing query profile, which is called default. So it's basically an abstraction that lets us hit a REST endpoint without having to change that string in our application. But that's already correct, so we're good there. And now what we need to look at are our fields. What fields are we going to display? Well, let's go ahead and just see what that did. All right, so we don't have anything just yet. Let's look at our the fields that we've got. Let's make sure if you look here, you'll see that I haven't saved. There we go. So we'll go ahead and change the fields that we're going to select. So there's a field called a head, a subhead, a description, the URL, and an image. Let's look at our data. and we'll look at our, let's look at a random cat here. So we'll look at this cat, and you see he's got a body field in there. There's a title, the parent thing. So let's just use the title string as the main thing. And for the subhead field, let's use the resource name, basically the link. For the description, we'll use the body of the text. And for the URL, of course, we still want to use the URL. So we'll see the URL, but we'll also be able to click on the URL. Oops. That wasn't supposed to be the string here. And is there an image? That's the question. Is there an image that we can use? So this article doesn't appear to have an image. Let's look for one. Let's try. Oh, there it is. So we got an image field that we can pull in here. And so we save that. I'm going to go ahead and restart View. And we're already getting something back here. Now, this isn't quite what we're looking for, but we're starting to get some results back. We can look at our document display, and I think one thing I noticed was that this version of View, the next version is coming out shortly, but this version of View doesn't necessarily automatically detect the version of the type of document that we've ingested. So based on the information in that, I was able to get doc type. Just change this. This will be fixed in the next release of View. Let's take a look. All right, now we've got our images. If you notice once we get that far, it automatically sort of shows us what we're expecting to see. It automatically changes the configuration. So we're seeing our image, we're seeing our title, we're seeing our link, but we're seeing a bunch of fields, and we don't really care about most of those fields. So let's fix that too. If we go down here, it'll show you that there are additional fields, and here it says fields to display. Well, we don't really want any of these additional fields. That could be useful for some people, but for us, we pretty much just want the link, the title, and the picture. All right, so now we immediately see our different cats here. What if we had categories and things like that? Now, I've already sort of limited the sort of things that we're getting back, but we can also specify facets, and based on the facet, we can allow the user to search by category. So in this case, I use the parent S field, and this is going to give us back the different categories in there. I'll specify the index as opposed to count because I don't really want the top. I don't really want the category that contains everything at the top of our facets. I'll say apply. Just doing this in our query workbench. Oh, don't forget to save it. It'll tell us, do you want to overwrite, save it over the cats one. And then in our view, we'll automatically see facets. Now, remember I went ahead and limited the parents to only have that. Otherwise, I would see different potential categories in here. All right, so let's look at our view. A few things jump out at me immediately. It looks like this description field is just way too long. So I'm going to want to limit that down. I don't really have a description field in the data that came back, so I need to do something to it. And one of the great things about Fusion is you have access to JavaScript as a worst case scenario. So I don't have an easy way to just change that field to a smaller size, or I've got to do some random sorts of manipulation on it. So why don't I just go ahead and add a JavaScript stage. And I need a script to do this. And this is probably the only thing that where I'm there's something hidden behind my back here, which is I didn't really want to debug a JavaScript script live in front of everybody. So just a quick little JavaScript here where I'm pulling from the body field that we used for that description. I'm pulling it into a new field called preview. And I'm doing some removals of carriage returns and other junk. Replacing that, if it's empty, then it's empty, not null or whatever. And then limiting it to 500 in length. If it's only 500 in length, I'll have the whole, whatever length it is. Otherwise, I'll just take 500 and doing a substring and then adding that. So I'll go ahead and save that. I don't want to do, I want to go then and do the actual ingestion. I need to change the, oh, that's interesting. I'm missing it. Try that again here. Nothing ever goes right. I've only practiced this. I've practiced this before, and of course, nothing ever goes completely the way you were expecting it in the middle of a live presentation there. There we go. Now I need to make sure that this happens after the Solr dynamic field name, because if I don't, then I've got to change the types of fields I use. Sorry, I'm a Linux guy new to Mac, so I tend to accidentally hit the, when I'm trying to do drag and drop, I tend to hit the dictionary thing. So I'm going to change the order. This Solr dynamic field mapping is basically a way that it pulls in certain types of fields and makes sure that there's a string version as well as an indexed version. But this is not something we want. We want this to happen first so that we have body T. Otherwise, we'd only have body. All right, so I've updated that. I'm going to go to my data source, cats. I'm going to go ahead and clear it again. I'm going to start crawling. And of course, it's going to fail. Let's see if all of them failed or if there's just a couple bad ones. Okay, it was just a couple that didn't work out. Let's see if my new field is there. It's not for that one. All right, so that didn't seem to have worked. Let me just take one quick look at that, and if not, then we'll look at the rest. So see the body, the preview, field. All right, well, we'll come back to that. Sometimes the best, we tested that before, but sometimes the best plans of mice and men. So I'm going to make a couple other changes to my view. So initially what I'm going to do is go ahead and, I didn't like the way that that description field looked. So I'm going to go ahead for now and remove the field, so I'll immediately be able to see what I think is a bit more useful. So now I see just the cats and their information. But I'm seeing some things in this first thing that I don't really like. I don't really want to look at help contents or whatever. These are things that are one off of the start page, but they're not something I really want. So I just want to show this to my boss. This is my right out of the gate sort of application. I can go back and do some pattern matching and eliminate help colon or things like that that I, based on patterns that I don't want to see, or hopefully fix some of the data. But I'm going to go ahead and just remove the that hairless cat. I'm going to remove these categories out of the first page. I'm just going to block them from the main search results. So I can immediately sort of get some bang for my buck here by looking at that. And so this changes the the search pipeline and adds this block documents stage, and I'll be able to see some direct things that it blocked. Now, if I look at this, this cat, Oh, you know what? I was wrong. It was pointed out to me that actually the JavaScript we added actually did work. It just put it at the bottom of the thing, and I was, for whatever reason, looking for it in the existing fields. So I blocked some things. I'm going to go ahead and edit my my configuration. Put my description in there. Look at my cats again. And now, instead of having nothing or having too long, I've been able to take the main body of the text, create a short preview version of it, and now I see something else. The other thing that I can do is start clicking on some of these cats. So when I do a search of star, I'll open Persian, Russian blue. Maybe I'll click on Persian again. You know, I'll click on Persian a few times, and that's fun. And I'll search again. He's still not at the top, but if I go and look in the main GUI here, I can look at Persian, look at the fields, and I see that he's now rank 4+. Why is he more important than he was a moment ago? Well, if we look through the fields, we'll see one called score. And we see what his score is. If we look at say, we'll look at some other random thing that we didn't actually click on. We'll look at this one, and he'll have a different score. And what's happening is inside of View, there's something called, there's a configuration for signals. And this is a feature of Fusion where these click events and search events are being captured. So you can actually go look at what I was clicking on. We'll go ahead and save that. Save it over that. You can go look at what I was clicking on by going to the Query Workbench and selecting cat signals. Sorry, cat signals. And so now you actually see search events that I performed, and you can see that I actually clicked on some of these different cats. So you can see the Russian blue I clicked on, the Persian, that I clicked on the Persian 3 times. And I can go make View even more aware of that. So one of the things I can do is change this, allow the user to specify the sort order. This influences the search anyway, but I can be more explicit about this and allow the user to search on, rather than just title or something, I can allow them to search on the score. So immediately in the view, I can now say score ascending or score descending. And so descending would mean the thing I clicked on most is now at the top. Now I could click on another cat a few times. Click on that one 4 times, do a refresh, and eventually he'll move up the sort order as well. Doesn't happen immediately because there's an aggregation job that waits until there's some events in there, and then updates the score. But we can see already that the events are in here. They'll eventually change the score of the actual results, but it doesn't happen immediately. And so I can look at some of my other searches. I can do a short hair. And you see I had removed the facets from the query pipeline. They automatically got removed from the GUI. So the query pipeline can drive that in the context of Fusion, or sorry, in the context of Lucidworks View. So I've shown you already that I can change those different GUI elements and what have you, but obviously you don't want your site to say Lucidworks. That's obviously not something that that we want for our cat site here, you know, at the very least for trademark reasons. So let's go ahead and look at that logo. All right, so we see the location is here. The main stuff goes into build. And I took the liberty of going ahead and getting us a snazzy image here. And, you know, maybe I didn't do this in just 1 hour, but going ahead and getting us a snazzy image. So I'll copy that into that directory. And immediately now I have a fancy logo. Well, maybe I don't like the color scheme either yet. So let's look at our UI here, and we see that there's a file called Client Asset Settings SCSS. So let's go ahead and edit that file. And so what we're looking for is that primary color. And let's let's change that color. All right, now our logo doesn't match, so so I went ahead and got us a different logo for that. Yep. And now we have a logo that matches. So I've been able to change the UI. We had categories. We went ahead and got rid of the categories. And now we've got a easy way to look at our cats. It's driven now by signals. And you can see that one that I clicked on more than Persian is now at the top. I can explicitly change, and like if I want to pull the lesser clicked cats, I could do that. I could pick the more clicked cats. Default sort is basically the same as the score in descending order. I could change it and sort by title or other things as well if I wanted to. I blocked some things from this. I could add other things to the index pipeline to limit the kinds of cats that were, or the kind of categories that we're pulling back. So we don't want to pull these things back. So I could do some string elimination, but you guys got the picture of how I was going about doing that. And so you see the query pipeline, the way that recommendations are being applied from those signals. Those signals are a built-in part of Fusion. They go into these signals and signals aggregate and then get put into that score. And we'll have another presentation someday to go over those in more detail. But right out of the box, I've been able to create a index and search of a previously unsearched, or there's a search on Wikipedia, but it's not cat-based. Right out of the box. I could have done other things. So if I had a different data source, I could have created a data source with a JDBC driver and specified my JDBC driver or ODBC driver and pulled in relational database data or what have you. But I figured the easiest thing that you guys would be able to replicate out of the box would be going to a public site. So again, right out of the box, we ingest a new data source. We tuned the ingestion process. We blocked some undesirable documents. We had faceted, and then we went ahead and removed the facet when we tuned the ingestion process. And one of the things that it turned out, if you were paying close attention, is maybe I shouldn't have gone 2 links down. Maybe I should have only gone 1 link down, because what I ended up doing is only pulling the things that were had the parent of the initial thing. So I could have specified to follow only 1 link and gotten the same result. Then we boosted on some desirable return values. So as a user, I clicked on some things. And this was all done in well under an hour. So without further ado, you've looked at the query pipelines. You've looked at the index pipelines. We've ingested some data. We've boosted some results. We've blocked some results, manipulated. We have our very own special cat-based search for Wikipedia powered by Fusion, and turn it over to you guys for questions. One thing about hour 2, so in hour 1 we did all this. What do we do for hour 2? Well, hour 2, maybe you get the UI guy to muck up the CSS theme for your company, because the one I did was pretty basic based on that Lucidworks one. If you looked in that settings file that I pulled up, there were like 100 other things you could have done to make it more custom. And if you looked at the one I had in the slides, I had an orange and yellow theme. It was pretty hideous. Maybe we want to add security and roles and basically specify what kinds of things each user can see. Maybe I wanted to deploy a couple other servers for high availability and greater capacity. Maybe I want to add more collections and enhance the data from other sources. All of those things I could do pretty reasonably in hour 2. So at this point, I'll turn it over to questions from you guys. There's some upcoming webinars. Building conversational search will be on March 1st. Building customer targeted search will be on March 15th. Aaliyah, do we have any questions?
We do. Thank you, Andy. So we have just a few minutes for questions. Again, if we don't get to your question today, someone from the Lucidworks team will reach out to you. So the first question is, I see that you are using a text editor to edit the view config file. Are there tools in Fusion to do this? GUI to set up the UI?
No, not at the moment. And View is actually a standalone download. But that's a good point. So maybe in the future we should have a configuration editor directly from Fusion. I'll pass that on to the View and Fusion teams and make that suggestion. I tend to be a bit of an old Unix hand sometimes, so I could have used other things, but I was just editing it straight in VI.
Thank you. The next question is, can we include logging stages in the pipelines to know which stage it is failing for debugging purposes?
You absolutely can, and that's a great question. So yes, there is a right in the index or query workbench, we could add another stage. Actually, I'll just go to the pipeline itself. Right in the pipeline, I could add an additional stage called logging, and I can put it wherever I like. So I can just add a logging stage, and I could turn on detailed logging. And let's say I put it, and I clicked on the stupid define the phrase again. Fusion is easy. Mac is hard. It's not user-friendly like Linux. But I could drag that here, for instance, and look at what things look like beforehand. that'll go into a log file under Fusion, and at the moment that log file is under var log connectors, and you can look in the connectors log. You can just tail that or use your favorite log viewing viewing tool, and the output of that will end up coming through here. And it'll dump a whole lot of stuff if I put the detailed, including the fields and whatever in the document. And I can put multiple of them, so I can put one before the JavaScript and one after, and I could put multiple stages of that if I want. But I increasingly use that when I, with 2.4, I use that a whole lot. And we didn't have a lot of different things we were doing, but with 3.0, I do a lot more manipulating here, and I'll look at the output. The JavaScript stage, at least in this version, tends to limit the output from the index workbench. But if I don't have a JavaScript stage, I can usually look at what I'm doing in the index or query workbench and just, rather than adding a logging stage here, I could just look at what the result changes are right as I change these things.
Thank you. So we're going to squeeze in one last question. How does recommendation boosting work out of the box?
So what we were doing for this out of the box is there is a scheduled event in 3. So there's something called the scheduler, and you can actually see that there's a scheduled job, and that scheduled job pulls the signals from cat signals, aggregates them, and eventually adds them to our cat score. Then when you look at the query workbench, you see that there's a recommendation boosting stage here. So basically, the signals get added to the score, and based on the score, View is actually wired directly to. I hit something there. View is actually wired directly to look at those to look at that field once you specify. View is actually scheduled to look at the signals and the signal pipeline and just boost those results automatically.
Thank you. So we are just now out of time. Everyone who registered for this webinar will receive a link to the recording tomorrow, as well as the slides. If we did not have time to get to your question today, please look out for a note from someone on the Lucidworks team. And if you have any additional questions that you did not get a chance to ask, feel free to email us at events@lucidworks.com. We hope you enjoyed today's webinar and have a great day. And thanks, Andy.
Thank you.